You're listening to Soap Dirt, the latest in television entertainment news.
Hi, Days of Our Lives fans. Today, we're going to talk about some of the behind-the-scenes tragedies that affected actors on the NBC soap, from Tyler Christopher to Suzanne Rogers, Lindsey Godfrey, Drake Hogestyn, and more. There's a lot to unpack. It's Belinda from Soap Dirt, and if you are not following us, please subscribe. And we're going to get started with a very recent tragic death among Days alums. Francisco San Martin played Dario Hernandez on Days. If you don't remember, that was Gabby and Rafe's brother, and Francisco San Martin originated the role in 2011, and it was later taken over by Jordi Villasuso. And after Francisco's stint on Days of Our Lives, he got a gig on The Bold and the Beautiful, and then he got to be on the hit primetime series Jane the Virgin. That was a very good show. But then out of nowhere, on January 16th, 2025, tragedy struck, and the ex-Dario actor took his own life. Francisco San Martin died at his LA home, and the coroner confirmed that his cause of death was suicide by hanging. He was just 39 years old and had been on Days of Our Lives back when he was in his 20s. The whole thing was just senseless and tragic. Now we're going to talk about Lisa Robin Kelly. Back in 1996, she debuted as Jill Stevens on Days of Our Lives, and Lisa's character Jill was hired to break up Bo Brady and Hope Brady. This was back at the time that Billy Reed was kind of in Bo's orbit, and after leaving Days, Kelly found primetime fame on the hit show That 70s Show. She was a prominent character, the main character's sister. And it was while working on That 70s Show that the first tragedy struck that led to greater tragedy, because Lisa got pregnant and she lost the baby. She suffered a miscarriage. And she said after that, she just felt like she lost everything, and she began drinking, and then it turned into full-on abusing alcohol. She was ultimately replaced on the show, and then that led to a whole spiral of arrests for DUI, assault, and other crimes related to her alcohol addiction. And then the ex-Jill actor decided that she was going to check herself into rehab to try and get her addictions under control. So she was doing the right thing. But tragically, Lisa Robin Kelly died in her sleep in the rehab facility of an overdose that involved multiple drugs, according to the coroner's report. She was just 43 when she died in 2013. And another absolutely tragic behind-the-scenes situation involved Tyler Christopher. You know, Days of Our Lives created the role of Stefan DiMera for Tyler Christopher. That was at the end of 2017. He had previously played Nicholas Cassadine on General Hospital, which is where he met Days head writer Ron Carlivati, who of course had been a writer on GH before coming to Days. Unfortunately, Tyler's demons followed him from GH right over onto Days of Our Lives. The Stefan actor said that he took his first drink at age 9, and he struggled with alcohol addiction throughout his life. And Tyler confessed that it was his own fault that he lost the gig at Days of Our Lives because his addiction to alcohol spiraled out of control. Again, after just a year of playing Stefan, the role that was created for him, the soap fired Tyler, and they recast him with another GH alumnus, Brandon Barish. Tyler's last air date was March 20th, 2019, and 2 days later, we first saw Brandon in the role. And then 4 years later, in 2023, after ongoing issues, arrests, troubling headlines, and several attempts to get clean, Tyler Christopher lost his battle with addiction and died in his home. His cause of death was positional asphyxia due to acute intoxication, which basically means that Tyler was drinking and he passed out in a position where he couldn't breathe. He was just 50 years old at the time of his death, died not that long before his 51st birthday would have hit. And this tragic loss of the Stefan DiMera actor's life still haunts fans to this day. Our next tragedy involves the actor who played Sonny Kiriakis for nearly 10 years. Freddy Smith originated the role back in 2011 before Zach Tinker later took it on in 2022. And Freddy did top work as Sonny, who fell for Will Horton and spawned the most popular gay romance in the history of Days of Our Lives, but things were troubling behind the scenes. In October 2014, Freddie Smith and his girlfriend Alyssa, who is now his wife, were in a horrific car accident. The Sonny actor lost control of their car and crashed it. Freddie initially said he fell asleep behind the wheel, but his blood alcohol level was 0.93, astronomically above the 0.08 legal limit. And Freddie later pleaded guilty to felony vehicular assault and DUI. But that wasn't even the real tragic part of it. Freddie's girlfriend, Alyssa, was seriously injured in the accident because their car flipped and she was trapped. She was in critical condition, had to be airlifted to the hospital after they had to cut her out of the car. It was upside down in like a culvert thing. Freddie Smith's girlfriend recovered from her terrible injuries, and they later married, and they remain together today. And I've not seen any other headlines about Freddie being in trouble with alcohol. So this was a tragedy, but it seems like it might have been a one-off, and it certainly could have been much worse than it was. Another real-life tragedy struck Days of Our Lives actress Suzanne Rogers after she had been healthy most of her life and had spent more than a decade playing Maggie Horton. Just out of nowhere, her blood pressure skyrocketed to the point that Suzanne Rogers' doctor said he was surprised she hadn't had a stroke. And that led to a diagnosis of myasthenia gravis, which is an autoimmune disorder that affects the neuromuscular structures of your body. And they started the Maggie actress on high-dose prednisone, which came with these drastic side effects. She spent a lot of time at the hospital. And at one point, Suzanne's throat closed up. She couldn't swallow. It affected her voice to the point that she couldn't continue playing Maggie. And then Suzanne had to have major surgery, and doctors told her, at least one doctor told her, she would never be in front of a camera again. But Suzanne took that as a challenge. And one of the side effects of the medication, if you've never taken prednisone for a while, I used to take it, is you get this swollen, round face. It was very noticeable, and it had fans concerned. They were writing into the soap. So Days of Our Lives decided to just address it and write it into the storyline. So in 1984, they had Maggie develop the same disease that Suzanne had, myasthenia gravis. And so the good news is both Maggie and Suzanne Rogers are doing much better and in remission. And this was another tragedy that could have gone much worse, but thankfully it all turned around. Next on our list of Days of Our Lives tragedies is the actress who plays Maggie's daughter, Sarah. I'm talking about Lindsay Godfrey, who has faced a couple of really terrible health issues over the years. At just 17 years old, the actress suffered an unspeakable tragedy when she was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, a form of cancer. And the Sarah actress, who of course plays a doctor, was diagnosed at stage 3 just before her birthday. And as she turned 18, she shaved her head and dived into 6 months of treatment, 12 rounds of chemotherapy. Thankfully, Lindsay came through it, and as of 2007 was cancer-free. And if you've ever noticed the tattoo on the back of her neck, that is Lindsay's mark of being a cancer survivor. But that's not the only tragedy for the Sarah Horton actress. Before Lindsay came to Days of Our Lives, back when she played Carolyn on Bold and the Beautiful, tragedy struck again. That was in 2015. Lindsay was just walking in broad daylight down a sidewalk in LA, and one car hit another car, and that made them careen. They hopped the curb and ran her down on the sidewalk, trapping her under their car. Both of her ankles were crushed. It required surgery, and Lindsay was wheelchair bound for a while. She even appeared on Bold and the Beautiful in a wheelchair, and they had written in something where she had broken her legs for the show so that she could keep working. And that tragedy was brought back to Lindsay Godfrey's mind recently when Sarah was run down on Days of Our Lives and couldn't walk and wound up wheelchair bound. And Lindsay said the storyline gave her a bit of PTSD when they wheeled that wheelchair out and she had to work in it. And it just reminded her of being stuck in it in real life. And she has now survived 2 life and death tragic occurrences. Another Days actress who is lucky to be alive is Judy Evans. She plays both Adrian Kiriakis and lookalike Bonnie Kiriakis. And during the pandemic, she suffered a terrible medical tragedy that came hot on the heels of a painful accident. So Judy was out horseback riding and she took a tumble. She broke several ribs, her leg, her collarbone, and some vertebra in her back. And she was hospitalized with these serious injuries. And then she caught COVID in the hospital. And although the Bonnie actress only had a mild case of coronavirus, she suffered blood clots caused by the virus, and doctors nearly had to amputate both of her legs. Thankfully, after several weeks in the hospital, Judy was able to return home and she recovered fully from this ordeal, but it was definitely an ordeal. And another tragedy that resulted in the death of a Days of Our Lives actor late last year was that of Wayne Northrup, who originally played the role of Roman Brady. He passed away in late November 2024, and in addition to appearing on Days as a fan favorite, Wayne also had a stint on the hit primetime soap Dynasty. And it was in his early 70s that tragedy struck the ex-Roman actor. He was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. His wife, soap actress Lynn Herring, who plays Lucy Coe over on General Hospital, had been caring for him for years at their ranch home as long as she was able to. But as the disease progressed, the family had to move Wayne into a care facility where he passed away at age 77 on November 29th, 2024, surrounded by love and family. And with a tragedy like Alzheimer's, a peaceful passing with family there is a blessing. And of course, we can't talk about tragedies behind the scene at Days of Our Lives without mentioning the one that fans and the actors and the characters are still going through now. Drake Hogestyn lost his battle with pancreatic cancer last year, leaving his fellow Days actors and a legion of fans deeply saddened. His final episode as John Black aired on September 9th, 2024, after more than 38 years of Drake playing the beloved character. And despite his character exiting in fall 2024, Days of Our Lives still has John's storyline going on now, just because they have that 7 to 8 month tape to air delay. But it is getting close to wrapping up. And after Drake Hogestyn had been absent from work and from filming for 9 months because he was bravely fighting this aggressive cancer, producer Ken Corday decided they needed to address his absence, so they decided to write a death exit for John Black with the promise that they would bring him back if Drake's health condition turned around and he was able to come back to work, because he wanted to come back. And Ken checked in with Drake on all this, and he signed off on them filming John's final storyline and his character death while he was still alive. So we are likely looking at a June 2025 funeral for John Black on Days of Our Lives. But of course, any episodes we see him on between now and then, it's only going to be flashbacks, because less than 3 weeks after Drake's final episode aired, he lost his struggle and he passed away on September 28th, 2024. This tragic loss of Drake Hogestyn's life played out in real time already, but Days of Our Lives fans are now bracing themselves for the tragic end of John Black as well.
Thank you for being a loyal listener. Follow us wherever you get your podcast, because you don't want to miss the next episode. Soap Dirt is on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.